Hi, welcome back to the studio of Art by Wendy. Today, I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to transfer your image from one surface to another. So let's get started. Many reasons why you might want to transfer a drawing that you've done from one paper to another. In this case here, I've worked out the drawing of my magnolia flower and made all the changes I want to make, and now I can transfer it onto my watercolor paper. And doing that here in the book first and then just transferring it to the watercolor paper means that the fibers of the watercolor paper aren't damaged through erasing and checking and things like that when you're doing your drawing. So for me, this is a common thing to do. For many people, they like to play with collage fodder. And sometimes you want to transfer that drawing around too. So those are just two examples. Actually, notice this is one of my newest pieces of collage fodder, my mushrooms families. So I thought I'd use one of the mushroom families to just show you what's involved. Now I did promise it would be a quick and easy way of doing it, and it certainly is. If we had, for the mushrooms, all I need to do is take a piece of tracing paper, and I like to use the cancel tracing paper. Basically, if you're using tracing paper, stick your finger underneath it and make sure you can see through it. Because I find some of the tracing paper is opaque and you really can't see through it very well. But you can see here, I can quite easily see my little mushroom shapes. And so I can just trace the mushroom shape out, which is what I'll do here, and just show you how it works. Now, when you're doing this, it's always a good idea to put a little note here. This is the front, so that you, because once you get going and you're ready to transfer the drawing, sometimes it's hard to remember which one was the front. So the first thing I do is just trace it. I use an HB pencil or a 2B pencil. And I want something that's not too dark, but soft enough that it gives me a nice line and has some graphite on it. So once I've done this side, I'm now going to turn it over, and I'll just put this here so you can see. So now I've turned it over, and you see here my word front is backwards. And so now I'm going to take an HB or a 2B, again, both good, because what you're doing is you're putting graphite now on the back of this drawing. And so even a 3B or 4B pencil would be a good idea. Just something that's going to make sure you get a good layer of graphite on it. Okay, so now I have finished redrawing my drawing here on the back. And so now I can turn this over again, and this is my front. So now what I have is my image here, and on the back I have graphite over the image there. Now in this case I want to make some mushrooms out of this colored paper. So I'm going to just do my drawing on the back. So here, this is where I'll put it. And then what you want to do is just take, and I use painter's tape, and just paint it, tape it in spot so that I can lift it up and check it. And so now what I'll do is go over these lines again. And you can see here my graphite that I put on the back is now transferred to the back of this, to the paper. Now you will have spots where it doesn't quite show, and that's why it's nice to kind of flip back and forth and keep an eye on it. Now you can buy graphite paper, and it works really well. It is quite expensive, far more expensive than the old carbon paper we used to have. And don't, by the way, you don't want to use carbon paper. That is terrible. It mixes with your inks poorly. I understand it even has some wax on it or something, so it's just not a good idea. Graphite paper does work well with your watercolors and your pastels. But as I say, it's expensive. It's not that common a product, so it can be. And the other thing I find with the graphite paper is all of this is, it's the same if you ever used the carbon paper in years gone by. So all of this is graphite. So that means if you happen to touch your pencil here, you're putting marks and smears in other places. And so I just find for myself, this is great. I certainly have to check, and as you can see, there's the odd spot that it doesn't show up, and then I can just go ahead and fix it. Now, one of the things you do want to be careful with, and this is again why I remind you to use an HB or a 2B pencil, is you don't want to be pressing so hard that you're going to score your paper. I know if you're using it for any kind of paint, the paint will pool in that scored line. So you want to be able to press firmly, but without scoring it. And so I would use a 2B or HB pencil and make sure that they're not really sharp. See, this has a little bit of a rounded edge, so that I'm not going to score anything. So yeah, you do have to do a little bit of this kind of touch up, but it's not a big deal. Now there are, you can also make it, if this is a very open image, but if you had a really detailed area, for example, if I wanted this grass specific shaped, which of course I don't, but if I had I could have, rather than outlined it, I could have done this kind of thing here, where I put a layer of graphite in one spot. And so now, when I put this on, and if I have an image here, you get your graphite. But you see, you also get bits of other graphite around, and that's why I would never use this process unless it was a really detailed area and single lines didn't work. So, how's that? Quick and dirty? Can you see how you can use that with your work? I look forward to seeing some of your art, and I certainly welcome you back to my studio. Wendy teaches outdoor sketching classes in the summer, and she teaches in her studio and online throughout the year. Wendy produces original work in pencil and in watercolor. She completes commission work, particularly pet portraits, and produces cards and prints from some of her work.